two words, curiosity and caution, and how they need to be involved in our training. These two types of horses are on opposite ends of a spectrum. The first is a horse that doesn't have a lot of caution. Can you just explain what that looks like, Mark?
That has, I guess, very impulsive decisions. They blunder in, they sort of could push on people, they could just come up and sniff and have those big heavy sniffs on people just without even sort of, slowing down and waiting and sort of maybe sort of thinking, do we have any boundaries or anything like that? They can rush into a herd every day, blunder in and get bitten by the other horses. And sometimes I have horses that I see turn up at clinics and they got bite marks on them, but apparently constantly they got bite marks on them because they're always, blundering in without thoughtfulness and awareness of the dynamics of the herd and the interactions that are already happening. So they end up in some sort of conflict because of that. Other scenarios are, they just might go in to an area without thoughtfulness and then suddenly panic because they're in there and then sort of, because they didn't think about maybe not going in there or going in there quite cautiously and processing the environment as they go. Those horses, that we have to change that in them.
So they're horses that don't know or don't respect boundaries, perhaps, and they sort of push through them pretty quickly to our surprise, and it gets them in a bit of trouble. Okay, the second type of horse on the other end of the spectrum is a horse that doesn't have a lot of curiosity. What does that look like?
Yeah, they will have moments of curiosity still, but it's everything comes with a lot of caution. So they can, if they're so far on the other end of the spectrum, they're actually like paranoid. There might be horses that are being constantly pushed down a pecking order, so they as soon as a horse flicks an ear, they jump because they're sort of so frightened that they might get bitten or kicked or something like that. They could be paranoid horses through a lot of training that's been very personal towards them, so they've stopped searching. They've got no curiosity, and it's all caution about where the danger is, and they end up in a sort of a paranoid state constantly. If you ride them with other horses, the energy of the other horses is enough at a distance to get them really freaked out and things like that. So they're so cautious that they become on red alert and they're paranoid. So their caution is actually comes, I guess, not caution at all. It becomes so cautious that they're actually not analysing things very well, as they just become very stressed. The ones that have all the caution and no curiosity, then they're not searching, they're not trying, things like that. So we've got to build that in them.
So are those sorts of horses, are they the ones that are quite reactive, or are they also ones that are quite quiet and shut down?
Yeah, well, you get the two types. You can get the hypervigilant, very reactive, sort of nervous horses that they usually just react to their caution instead of act. Acts will be, having curiosity and thinking through a situation, but reacting is like, oh, I'm really worried, I just got to get out of here, get away from the problem. And then you've got the other ones that are just really shut down and they don't search, they don't look, they just hide away in themselves, and they're constantly trying to figure out where pressure is so they can sort of move away from the pressure and things like that. And they're not processing, they're not sniffing. When you take them over obstacles or through gullies, they don't sniff, they don't sort of process the depths or how soft the ground is with their feet. They just kind of blunder through things in a shut down sort of state. But the problem with those ones is when something happens out of the blue, they can get a big panic because they're not really processing their environment at all, because they've become so internalized that their caution is actually they've lost both curiosity and caution in the sense so because the only thing they're cautious about is the trouble that they might get into if they make the wrong decision, and that's obviously a lot caused through education and I would say bad education. So they've lost curiosity. They don't search. They don't think about the obstacle, like I said before. But they also aren't in a proper cautious state about their environment. So their only caution is about the pressure that might be inflicted on them, not the environmental things that are happening around them. So they've lost that cautious awareness of their environment and the things that are going on in front of them and around them, underneath them, all that sort of stuff as they're going through different environments. So they lose their environmental caution because it's just all about human caution and what the human or the other horses might do to them sometimes.